So tell me about Los Floridanos.
Okay, we are an organization of descendants of the settlers of the first Spanish period in Florida. That was 1565 to 1763. So all of our ancestors arrived in Florida sometime between those years.
I checked on the website for the group, not the Facebook group, but the separate website.
Yeah.
And it said that actually there's only two individuals that everyone is descended from, because I guess after, I think it was the one of the wars when the U.S. took over Florida, like 2,000 or 3,000 families moved to Cuba, but like two men stayed behind. Is that right?
That's close. When the British took over, only about 8 Spaniards were allowed to stay by both the Spanish and the British governments. Only 2 of those men had families. The rest of them died without families or got kicked out and had families in Cuba and then came back later.
So are you all descendants of those 2?
About 20 years.
So are you all descendants of those 2 individuals?
The vast majority of us, although we've outreached to a lot of Cubans back during the 450th, because a lot of them are descended from other families, but they're still first Spanish period, and we're trying to reach out to more than just the 2 families that stayed.
Okay, all right. So we have, and I'm really glad that, I guess it was organically when I created my Facebook page, we got people from all over. But I think we share a common experience. So my background is, Santa Fe is the oldest capital city in the USA.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second oldest city after St. Augustine, of course. But we were founded by Oñate in the Spanish. But people, let me ask you this: do people assume if you're Hispanic from Florida that you're Cuban?
They tend to.
Of Cuban descent.
Yeah, they tend to, and we have to say no. We're Floridanos. And even the King of
Spain
is Floridanos.
Right? So when I travel outside of New Mexico or people come visit, they assume I'm Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time explaining the distinction between, we call ourselves Hispanos, part of the original Spanish. And we can literally trace our family, as you can, back, because the Spaniards, mostly the church, but the Spaniards kept meticulous records. Birth, death, marriages.
Between them and the military.
Huh?
Between them and the military, there are a lot of records.
They know how many pigs and cows and chickens, and I mean, it was pretty amazing. So, and growing up with that, we always knew about our lineage and heritage. In fact, Santa Fe has the Santa Fe Fiestas, which is the oldest continuous community celebration in the U.S. And so, we grew up assuming that, but it was amazing to me growing up and, traveling in business that a lot of people don't know past their grandparents or great-grandparents where they come from.
Yep. Yeah, us, we've known who and what we are all along, and we just got documented proof of it back in the 50s when everybody started getting interested in genealogy, and we would put together our individual lines, but everybody knew even before that it was straight all the way back to those original settlers. Right.
So anyway, so that's something we have very much in common. So I'm glad that we're connecting, because we definitely want to include that as part of the documentary. So I don't know if Steven can hear us or what's going on with Steven. We are recording this. I think it says recording, so if anybody wants to view it afterward. But so let me tell you a little bit about. Well, if you have any questions,
he does not have a microphone.
Can you hear us?
Let me find out. He asks, is there a number to phone in?
Yeah, I think it's in the in that posting I put on Facebook.
Oh, yes. Let me see if I can find that for him while we keep chatting. Okay. I can keep talking while we do this.
You're talking to Hugo at the same time, or walking to Jim? So anyway, so I don't know if you have any questions about me. That's my background. We come from the Spanish. Oñate, I don't know if you know the Camino Real that came up with Oñate. They founded, the various cities, El Paso, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and so forth. And even the Spanish in this area go back even further to Coronado, who explored all the way up to Kansas. So
yes,
long history here. So my background, just so that you know, what I call my former life, I was a stockbroker, investment advisor, worked for Citibank and so forth. And I'm in a second career. I'm a writer. Primarily, I'm an award-winning author. I wrote How to Achieve the American Dream Without Losing Your Latin Soul. So I specialize in working with Hispanics. But a couple of years ago, I was traveling back east, and I was doing book signings. I was at the New Jersey Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is one of the strongest in the country, including in Albuquerque here. But the same struggles I had is people assuming I was from Mexico and trying to. And these are Hispanics, should know better, but they didn't understand here. The history. Even I've been interviewed in California on air. People assume that we just crossed the Rio Grande last week. So
yeah.
So I had this. I just out of frustration, and I host a TV talk show as well. So I have a little bit of media experience, but I have a good friend of mine who's a 2-time Emmy and Peabody award-winning filmmaker, and he's done several documentaries. And so I met with him. I said, I want to do this documentary, Hispanic America: The Untold Story. And I was assuming that I would just raise the money and take care of the business part of it, but he said, okay, but I'm doing all the work, which is fine. But let me tell you what this is about. This is not just about history. This is about busting myths. Okay, I don't know if did you see the segments like I posted on the group of the outline and the film proposal?
Yes.
Okay, so there's four. Okay, there's 4 segments, and there's enough between your background and our background. I mean, we could do a whole series on this, but I had to, cut to the chase as far as what did I really want to say in this documentary. So there's 3 main myths that I want to bust. The one is that we are Spanish and we actually were here first. Okay.
Yes.
I've spoken at several events and organizations, a couple of Rotary clubs, and about this subject, and people are I'm amazed that they're amazed. My family goes back that far. But I closed my presentation with, I give you a lot of information, but the takeaway is what you need to know about Hispanics in America is that we stole this country first, fair and square.
Yep, that's right. We did. And we made it all the way out to the West Coast first, too.
Yeah. I mean, San Francisco, San Jose, Albuquerque, Phoenix, even Tucson were founded. Even New Orleans actually originated as a Spanish port. People think of New Orleans.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Bernardo Galvez helped take Pensacola back from the British during the American Revolution.
Right. So the first segment is what I call conquest. We talk about the conquistadors and the Spanish settlers. Of course, St. Augustine is featured prominently in that, and then the area here. So that's the first myth. And then, the Spanish, and a lot of even our own Hispanics here didn't realize that the horse is not indigenous to the Western Hemisphere. So before the Spanish, the Spanish brought the horse, they brought wool, they brought sheep, cattle,
pigs. All of these wild pigs that run around this nation, Spanish.
And wine, and the wine thanks to the Spanish friars for the mass, right?
Yeah.
And so what's unique about the Spanish explorers, in addition to being first, but different from the Dutch and the English and Portuguese, the Spanish, they were mandated by Queen Isabella to bring her primary motive was to spread Christianity. So every ship, every expedition had to have Spanish friars, and so they're the ones that brought the wine and the grapes and all that. So anyway, going back to the documentary. So it's really about it's history, but it's really busting myths. One is, as I mentioned, that if you're Hispanic, that you're a recent arrival to America. We're not. You saw the trailer, I'm sure, right? The film's trailer.
Yes.
Okay, I mentioned that in the trailer. And number two, that so that's the first segment. The second segment is called settlement. There's huge land grants, and our family was part of that land grants that out throughout the Southwest that still exist.
Oh yes, we've still got one of the cousins still lives on the remains of one of our Spanish land grants today.
Yeah. So this whole issue of this artificial border wall, what's going on and stuff, it's like, hey, we own this land and we stole it first, and we still own part of it. So that's settlement. There's I don't know if there's a tradition or a history of crypto Jews in Florida with your group, because
yes, that's one of those things that we have very much investigated because of the dual citizenship offer from Spain itself, and there are several of us that have found that we do have crypto Jews in our background.
Right, and a lot of people here have that. Especially there's a over-indexing of the last name Z. My name's Ortiz, Gomez, Suarez, Velasquez. So it just so happened that the settlement by the Spanish coincided with the Inquisition, and so a lot of Jews came in, but they were still.
There was a lot of people getting the heck out of Dodge, so to speak.
Right. So we're gonna have that segment, and then we're gonna have. I just saw Steven's mic go off. I wonder why. Oops.
Yeah, I see it coming in and out. I gave him the number, the New York number to use to call in.
Well, anyway, we're still recording this, I believe, and we only have half an hour. So you see here we're at 15 minutes. Okay, we're not 15 minutes. So that's the third. So first segment is conquest. Second segment is settlement, land grants, so forth. Third segment is crypto Jews, but the fourth segment is a myth I really want to bust, and that's economics. Okay, if you're Hispanic in America, you're 4 times more likely to start a business. If you're a Latina, you're 6 times more likely to start a business. And we have Hispanics in the U.S. alone, we have a population greater than Canada's, and a purchasing power greater than Italy, Brazil, India, or Russia. And according to the SBA, it's either the census or the SBA. I'll check, but there's something like 26,000 Hispanic-owned businesses with revenues over $1 million or more. So that's a big sector. So that's really what the film is about, is busting myths.
And a lot of us in my group don't necessarily want to, in census or official records, identify themselves as Hispanic because they see themselves as white European descendant, whereas a lot of people see Hispanic as being those that intermarried with the natives and the Africans, and that there's some kind of mix, and that they don't. It's kind of crazy that this kind of thinking still goes on, but they don't self-identify as Hispanic, and so even there's numbers of Spaniards that are missed because there's no slot for Spaniards.
They're white, right?
Right. They just click white because they're white. I mean, I was raised as my dad was a NASA scientist. I was raised suburban white girl.
Well, we are white. I mean, that's the other thing is not a race.
Right.
That drives me
it's not.
nuts when in the media, who should know better, say whites versus Hispanics. It's like, I mean, we're going to go there.
Same thing. Like, Hispanics are white, you fools.
Right, yeah. We're not all brown. So, but we have kind of the similar situation here but it's not between Hispanic and white. It's between Hispanic and Latino, or Hispanic and Chicano, because we do have, there is a mixture of Mexicans, and there's debate of, no, you're Mexican, no, you're Spanish, and some are both. Mexico was actually New Spain for 300 years. So
yes.
And a lot of Mexicans don't identify with their Spanish heritage for some reason. They're Mexican. It's like, well, but you're Mexican of Spanish descent. But
right. A lot of them really identify with their native heritage and act as if there is no Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they do acknowledge it, it's always in a bad context. Well, you guys raped and pillaged and murdered, and well,
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we had some of
It's
that.
like, well, there was some of that too. Yeah, it wasn't 100% of it though.
Well, and I'm actually been in contact with Acoma Pueblo, which is one of the oldest continuous uh, uh, inhabited places in North America, over 1,000 years. Acoma Pueblo. It's called Sky City.
Yes.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
so, but we had an incident there with Oñate, which I'm gonna go in there. But where was I gonna go with this? Is so. So, but with the Native Americans, you know, they still having this. You know, we kissed and made up, but there's still this issue. But they were not exact. The Native Americans weren't exactly living an idyllic paradise when the Spanish got here. You know, they were warring with each other. Um, there was a lot of famine. You know, it was just it wasn't like what's that movie um, Avatar. You know, they weren't just like living peace and harmony. Though we Spanish, yes, we did some terrible things, but we actually brought some good things. You know, in New Mexico we have the Navajos who are known for their rugs. Navajo, I mean, they're like $100,000. Some of these rugs.
Yes. Yes.
There would be no Navajo rugs if the Spanish didn't bring the cheap
The textiles.
the textiles to do that with. So you know, there's a lot here. There's a lot here. So we don't want to open old wounds, but we want that to be part of it. So here's a couple of things. I wrote some notes. Um, you know, I'm an independent. So, dog. Sorry, you guys be quiet.
That's okay.
So
you warned me that might happen.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a independent film producer. I'm not backed by a studio or anything. So I'm putting my own money into this project, and I'm raising a lot of money as well. So with regard to Florida, it was always my intention to start off with Florida, with St. Augustine. But I thought budget-wise, you know, we'll probably use some stock footage that you can download from the internet or stock video. But I'm thinking, is those Floridanos, are they a 501c3 entity?
We ourselves, Los Floridanos is not a 501c3. We keep talking about doing the paperwork, but nobody has taken the time to do the paperwork.
Cumbersome. I looked at. I was going to do that for my film because there's grant monies available from foundations and etc. But it's a hassle.
Yes.
It's almost not worth it.
I work in the theater industry myself. Okay. I am a stage director, choreographer, stage manager, production manager. So I understand all of those background issues.
Okay. So
I've always worked not for profit. So I completely understand how that works.
Okay. So we have partnered with the New Mexico Film Foundation, which is a nonprofit, as our fiscal agent. So we're able to receive monies through them. They set up.
Okay.
So I was asking that. Oh, Stephen is out. Okay. And I think we're scheduled.
He just popped up on top.
You can hear me now?
Hey.
Yes, I hear you.
All right. Sorry, I had all sorts of problems. I had to call in on the phone because I don't have a microphone for my computer.
That's fine, Stephen. Have you been able to hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that this meeting is being recorded as well, so I can post it on one of the Facebook group pages, and people can jump in on that later if they want. So, but what I was getting at is, so we're going to use basically stock footage and stock video, and then a voiceover to talk about St. Augustine. But since we got connected with some of you and your members, we're considering filming out there, but we need to get a budget for that. That's why I asked if your organization was a 501c3, because I know here in Albuquerque, the city actually contributes to the film industry in different projects. So I was just curious if that was anything going on like that with St. Augustine as a city, like they have a travel or like not a visitors bureau, but the travel department for the city.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is also a St. Augustine Film Commission.
Okay.
that encourages film. I think when you're talking about the tourism that's county, not city. So it's, I think, the St. John's County Tourism. They're the same people that set up the photo and birding fests that they have in town that are insanely popular. So I can send you the link to that.
Yeah, please do,
Definitely.
because we want to reach out to those entities and see if there's some collaboration.
And also, one of our cousins who isn't a paid member, he's an honorary member, Chad Light, does a lot of drone film work that is simply incredible. So you might want to get in touch with him. He's on Facebook, and I can probably do one of those friend suggestions.
Yeah, please do. Can you do a mutual introduction?
2 of you up.
Okay. And you have my email address, so maybe you can do that through the email as well. Just do a mutual introduction.
Yeah, definitely. Because yes, I do have your email since you sent me the email about this meeting.
Okay. Now, I listed initially on my postings coming in Hispanic Heritage Month 2019. We're going to move that forward to 2020. I need to change it on the page, primarily because with film festivals and timing to release films, those are mostly done by like March. And so we want to make sure we get in that sequence. So we're going to hold off a little bit on that. But is there a best time, if we did go to St. Augustine, is there a best time of year? Or is there an events that maybe we want to coordinate that with?
Well, they do a Founders Day every year, right around the actual founding day, which was September 8th. I believe this year that is actually the Saturday. They usually do it on the Saturday closest to it, and that's, like I said, that's September. So, and always like either the first or second Saturday of September. And I believe this year it's the 7th or the 8th. I just forget which day is Saturday.
Okay. It's just one day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but they do they've got a recreated chalupa that they row up with Menendez, and he lands and he greets the he greets the friar who's there with the cross. He kisses the cross. He claims the land. We march in. There's a whole mass that's performed. The descendants march in as well and are recognized.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Menorcans who came later during the British period. The Menorcans also get to march in and are recognized.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good to know.
That one day of it, and then there's constantly reenactments. I mean, it is the reenactment city. They just did the Battle of Bloody Mosaic, where the Spanish took out the British from a fort the British had captured from the Spanish. There's every year around Memorial Day, they do a memorial service for the fallen soldados who died defending Spanish St. Augustine. And then there's just reenactments all year long, pretty much, except in the summer when it's too hot and nobody wants to go in Florida.
Okay. So I had mentioned earlier the Fiestas de Santa Fe, which is the oldest continuous celebration. I don't know when yours started, but it celebrates the I don't know if you know the history of the area, but Don Juan de Oñate came out. He was a Spanish conquistador. They call him the last conquistador, and he came up with 300 families, the founding families of this area. But we call the Oñate incident. So the Pueblo Indians here revolted against the Spanish rule and drove the Spanish out for about 10 years. And then Don Diego de Vargas came and reconquered. So they've been celebrating that reconquest for 400 years or longer. But the Pueblo Indians always objected to it because it was ostensibly celebrating, their, I don't know what the word we want to use, genocide. So this past year, Santa Fe, for the first time in decades, did do a reenactment because of that pushback from the Native Americans. It was a big deal. Big deal here.
There was some pushback at the St. Augustine 450th.
that right?
But for the most part, they were screaming about the Seminoles, who didn't even actually exist as a tribe until the late 1700s, and therefore were not affected by the founding of St. Augustine.
Right.
And the few Temeculans that survived ended up in Cuba. So
Okay.
they fled to Cuba with the Spaniards when the Spanish left.
Yeah, interesting. So we'll keep that in mind. Also, if you or anybody, if you know anybody specifically that we might want to interview, you probably have a lot of people that could be good interviews, but if you have anybody in mind that has a particularly interesting story, we probably want to interview them as well. Again, assuming we can make it out there. So, or any interesting stories.
They tend to default to me, to the family storyteller, but I know that there are Sanchez stories too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's we have an overabundance of content for this film. My internet is unstable. Okay, we might check out here technologically here. I don't know if this was set up for 30 minutes, but we're coming up to that. So if I cut out it, eventually we'll follow up at a later date. But
okay.
But it's very nice to talk to you in person and learn. It's interesting how our stories and the experiences we have are very similar. You know, with the pushback with the events and
yes,
so Jews and all that, and being white versus Mexican or whatever, or Chicano or whatever.
Versus.
Yeah. So, okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Steve, do you have any? You still there?
Daniel, can I get your email?
Yes, Daniel at I'll give you my personal, Daniel at danielortiz.com. And Stephen, are you a member of the Facebook groups I have?
I don't think so. What are they called?
One's a private group, and the other one's just a page. It's Hispanic America: The Untold Story. I'll invite you to join those because any new notices I'll post on there.
Okay, I'll send you an email if you can tell me what the names are. I can look them up.
Okay. Or you probably, are you Facebook friends with Crystal?
Yes, we are Facebook friends.
Maybe you can just send him an invitation or to join the group.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah, please share. Feel free to share with anybody who may be interested, because it's not just I tell people it's not just my story; it's our story. And so we want to get as much involvement as we can, and input as well. So I'm getting a notice here that my 40-minute time limit is being removed, so we might be able to go a little longer. We're at 31. So has anyone seen the trailer for the film? Have you seen it, Crystal or Stephen?
In which film?
Trailer. The film's trailer.
Which film?
For the documentary.
You're
cutting out?
breaking up. What was that again?
The trailer.
I'm saying that I'm
for the documentary. I have a trailer, a 2-minute trailer.
I haven't watched that yet.
So again, feel free to share that as well. It's posted on YouTube, so you can share it pretty easily. Well, I think we're having some technical issues, which I was expecting about this time. So thank you so much, Crystal, for your interest. And let's do this again, and maybe I'll plan it a little bit better. And I was expecting more people, but I don't think anybody had the ID number.